Welcome back to another masterpiece, a master classic. Today's video is going to go ahead and cover explicit formulas for arithmetic sequences. Our previous video, we touched on recursive formulas. Today we're going to talk about explicit formulas, okay? Boom, 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 pulling up this first problem. Okay, over in Desmos here, I've got the explicit formula. That is the explicit formula. And below that, we've got the slope-intercept here. And the reason why I typed that in is just because there's a lot of similarities between the two equations. And so I'm going to go ahead and explain what these similarities are. I know too much talking, no good, but you got to have kind of an idea of what the concept is here in order to really understand these formulas, right? So a of 1 is essentially the first term in the sequence, which is essentially the same thing as like the starting value or the y-intercept. In slope-intercept form. So these two things are the same essentially. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drop the b first, so that way you know, oh, okay, cool, b is like the same thing as a of 1. It's the first term, the starting value. And then m would be essentially the same thing as the difference, right? The difference tells you how much these terms are changing by, which is essentially the same thing as how much the line is changing between two coordinate points. And then this n minus 1 part is essentially just like whatever the input is. So like, if I want to find the third term, I take out n, I put in 3 right there, and I do that little math, and we multiply that to the slope, just like I'd put in the input in for x and multiply it to the slope, okay? So very, very similar formulas. So you're not really learning anything new. Today's question is, Ivy and Andrea were asked to find an explicit formula for the sequence. And then here's the sequence that's given us. Here's Ivy's formula for that sequence, and here is Andrea's formula for the sequence, and we're trying to figure out, is Ivy right, is Andrea right, are they both right, or are neither of them right? Several different ways we could do this. We could just build the formula from the sequence, but I'm going to teach you a way that we just like double check their formula. So the first step here would be, if I want to know if Ivy built the right formula, I'm going to put it into the calculator, and I'm going to make sure when I put it into the calculator that I have this f of n part. This is really important. And then I'm going to reference that name, that f of n part, and if this formula is correct, when I type in 1, I should get back negative 100, which I do, because the first term is negative 100. If I type in a 2, I should get negative 50, and that's exactly what we're getting. If I type in a 3, we should get a, hopefully you said to yourself, 0, which so far so good. And if we type in 50, we should get, if we type in 4, sorry, it's the fourth term, I almost confused myself. If we type in 4, we should get 50, which is exactly what we're getting. So Ivy's formula checks out. I'm going to go ahead and put that on pause. Actually, I'm just going to delete it. We know Ivy's good, so right now only Ivy, but I've got to double check on Andrea's, so I'm going to go ahead and double check this. I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did in the previous one. Okay, the first term's good. We got to check a couple of them to know for sure. The second one's good, third one is good, and fourth one is good. So they're actually both acceptable because both of them give us the correct term output for each of the 4 inputs. Okay, this style question. Find the explicit formula for the arithmetic sequence. So this one we're actually building, and we've got the C of n part right there. And so that's kind of like the A of n part. So we need to figure out what the first term is. So the first term is obviously the first number that we see, which is negative 45. So we know that negative 45 is the first number in the sequence. And then we've got to figure out the second part of this, which is the difference. And to do that, we've kind of done this before, but we take the second term and we subtract it from the first term minus negative 45. Or we could take the fourth term and subtract it from the third term. Either way, we're gonna continue to get the same number, so we know that the difference is 15, and it's positive, so we'll make it plus 15, and then the n minus 1 part in parentheses just stays as n minus 1. So we just right here we're typing in n minus 1. Okay, and that would be the explicit formula for this sequence. All right, so style 1. This is like the first question we saw, kind of, right? So let's go ahead and do the double check. So I'm copying over this equation, and I know that those are the order of the terms, right? So we got first term, second, third, and fourth. So when the input is h is the name of the function, right? If I used f here, right, it's not giving me back anything because the function we named it h, so we got to use the h here. If I type in a 1, the input, the output should be 79. Good. If I type in an input of 2, the output should be 71, which it is. 3, the output should be 63. Sweet. 4, 55. So right now, when I look at this, Amika's formula is legit. Let's check on Marcel and see how Marcel's doing with his explicit formula. So we're going to copy this over, delete this, paste it in, and now we're going to double check the order of his. So 1 should give us 79, which it does. 2 should give us 71. 3, 63. 4, 55. Done. So they're again, they're both right. Nice job. And now the last one. So the last one, we're building it ourselves. We know that the first term here is the first number it gives us, which is 10. To find the difference, we just take 2 terms and we subtract them. We make sure we subtract them in the right order. So negative 30 minus negative 10. Or I could have done negative 10 minus 10. I'm sorry, negative 30 minus negative 10. My bad. And it's going to give us the same number. I stopped, pause there because I was like, oh, did I get it right or wrong? And then again, this n minus 1 just stays as n minus 1. So up here would be the formula you want to include in your notes if you're taking notes. And that's how you complete explicit formulas for arithmetic sequences. Good luck.